This happened a few months ago. I had just moved to a small town, hoping to escape the chaos of city life. I thought a quiet cottage would help me reconnect with my art. At first, everything felt perfect, peaceful even. I liked the fields and the trees. On my second night, I woke up suddenly. There was a noise outside. It sounded like clucking, but not like any rooster I had heard. It felt wrong. I tried to ignore it and go back to sleep, but I felt this uneasy itch crawling up my spine. The next night, I heard it again, louder and more urgent. I pulled my blanket around me and listened. The clucking was rhythmic, echoing into the dark. I glanced at the clock. It was midnight. I wanted to convince myself I was just hearing things, but doubt nagged at me. I leaned out my window. Outside was still, too still. The neighbor's house had dim lights flashing from a window. I scratched my head, wondering what she could be doing at this hour. Something didn't add up. I looked away, but felt a shiver crawl down my back. I shook it off, but the feeling lingered. As the days passed, the noise morphed from clucking to crowing, every night, right at midnight. I found myself staring out the window, hoping to see whatever was making that sound. Shadows flickered at the edge of the light, moving strangely. I felt my heart race. I thought I saw a figure, but I wanted to dismiss it as my imagination. I really wanted to. One evening, I decided to ask my neighbor, Mrs. Dahlia, about it. She would know what was happening. I walked to her house, the air chilly on my skin. My heart pounded with each step. I raised my hand to knock, but hesitated. What could I even say? Just then, I heard it, the crowing. It pierced through the night and froze me in place. I could hardly breathe, my heart thumping loudly. Maybe I should just turn back. I didn't want to face whatever this was. That's when I saw the shadows again, moving toward me, closer this time. I backed away slowly. I wanted to run, but couldn't turn. The air felt heavy. I was terrified, but couldn't look away. Then I heard a voice, low and soaked in dread, whispering, "They crow for a reason." My heart dropped. I turned, but saw nothing. What did it mean? Why the roosters at midnight? I didn't want to know this. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. But the next night, just before midnight, I felt drawn back outside. The air was thick around me. I knew I shouldn't go, but curiosity pulled me forward. Holding my breath, I stepped into the yard. That's when the crowing started, echoing like a nightmarish chorus. I felt the ground tremble beneath me. And then, in the darkness, the shadows returned, swirling around me. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I finally understood. They were no ordinary roosters, and I stood frozen, waiting for whatever came next. I stood there, immobilized, the crowing filling the air like a terrible serenade. The shadows coiled closer, merging with the darkness around me. Panic surged through my veins. I knew I should run, but my legs felt rooted to the spot. Then, without warning, the ground beneath me shifted. I stumbled as something pulsed from below, sending ripples through the earth. My breath quickened. What was happening? The crowing intensified, merging with my racing thoughts. In the distance, I saw a faint glimmer. A flicker of light caught my eye, a subtle glow emanating from the direction of Mrs. Dahlia's house. Maybe she had answers. The shadows pressed in, but I forced myself to move, slipping past the ominous shape surrounding me. When I reached her porch, I hesitated. Should I knock? But the crowing echoed behind me, a visceral reminder to hurry. I rapped on the door, my heart racing as it swung open. Mrs. Dahlia stood there, her face pale and strained. "You shouldn't be out here," she said, looking over my shoulder at the dark yard. Not now. Do you hear that? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. What does it mean? She let out a shaky breath, her eyes wide with fear. It's the night, the roosters. She cut off abruptly, eyes darting back into the darkness. You need to come inside. Just then, the sound shifted. The crowing morphed into something else, a chorus of voices, all clamoring over each other, mingled with frantic clucks. It was like they were crying out for help. Mrs. Dahlia, what's going on? I gripped her arm, desperation clawing at my insides. Please tell me, why do they crow like that? She looked at me with a grave expression. You have to understand. It's a warning. They call upon the boundary. What boundary? But before she could explain, a loud crash echoed from the yard, followed by a chilling silence. My breath hitched. The shadows outside pulsed, a dark wave that threatened to swallow everything whole. Suddenly, the lights flickered in her house, leaving us in darkness for a heartbeat before they returned. Something shifted outside, and I caught a glimpse of movement, a figure shifting between the trees. I stepped back, heart racing, trying to convince myself that it was just my imagination. But it was too late. I heard it again, a voice, different from before, calling my name. My blood ran cold. Go, now, Mrs. Dahlia urged, shoving me back toward the door. You have to leave the town before it's too late. I was on the verge of asking why when she ushered me inside and slammed the door. I pressed against it, breathless and terrified. The crowing had surged outside, mixed with a fervent chant that seemed to seep into my bones. Why do they want me? I whispered. Mrs. Dahlia's expression hardened as she glanced back at the window. They won't stop until they get what they want. You have to find out who they are before midnight at the next crow. And just like that, the ground shook again, more violently this time, as if the universe was screaming. I felt it deep within me. I didn't even need to ask. The answer loomed large in my mind. Now I had a new goal. I needed to discover the truth behind the roosters, and fast. But as the next crow rang out, I realized I might not have much time left. The next morning, the sun broke through the heavy clouds, but the dread from last night clung to me like a shadow. I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was about to happen. I had to move. I decided to go to the library. Maybe there I could find something, anything that could help me understand the warnings Mrs. Dahlia had mentioned. I grabbed my bag and left the house, constantly glancing over my shoulder. Every rustle made my heart race. Once inside the library, I went straight to the local history section. The musty smell of old books surrounded me, but I paid it no mind. I scanned through titles, my fingers brushing over dusty spines. I needed to know about the town's past, especially anything related to the roosters or the boundary. Hours passed, and then I found it, a thin book titled Folklore of Our Town. With a quick flip, I landed on a chapter about local superstitions. My breath caught as I read. The roosters are believed to be guardians during the dark of night, warning the townsfolk of unseen dangers. They cry out when something breaches the boundary, an ancient protection put in place by the first settlers. First settlers? I murmured to myself. My mind raced. What more had they done? I turned the page eagerly, but found only vague warnings and old tales. Just when I thought I reached a dead end, a note fell from between the pages. I picked it up, heart pounding. It was a handwritten note. The ink was faded, but I could make out the words. They come when fear lingers. Find the source. The truth lies buried under the old well. I stared at it in disbelief. The well? I had grown up in this town, but the old well was something few people mentioned. It was located on the outskirts, near the abandoned fields. A chill ran down my spine. If the townsfolk feared it so much, what could I expect to find there? I hurriedly returned the book to its spot and raced outside. The sky darkened again, thick with clouds like the night before. I ignored the tightening in my chest as I headed toward the well. The air hummed with anticipation, and I felt the shadows creeping back towards me. When I arrived at the well, it loomed like an ancient sentinel, its stones weathered and cracked. I peered down into the darkness. My heart raced at the thought of what lay below. Just then, a low crowing sounded above me, echoing through the air. Could it be noon already? The time was slipping away, and with it, my chance to uncover the truth. That's when I saw it. A figure moved behind the trees, watching me. I squinted, trying to catch a glimpse, but they slipped away into the underbrush. I felt a rush of fear. Who else knew what I was about to find? As the crowing grew louder, I had to make a choice. Stand my ground and face the unknown, or run back to the safety of the town. But the urgency pulled at me. I was so close to understanding. I took a deep breath and edged closer to the well. I had to see what was inside. I couldn't turn back now. But as I reached for the edge, a voice rang out behind me, sending me spinning around. "Stop right there!" I swung around, my heart pounding. A man stood a few feet away. He was tall, shrouded in shadows. His eyes glinted, reflecting the dim light filtering through the trees. "Who are you?" I managed, my voice trembling. "Get away from the well," he demanded, his tone sharp. He moved closer, and I instinctively took a step back. There was an intensity in his gaze that made me uneasy. "You shouldn't be here." "Why?" I shot back, my defiance surprising me. "What's down there?" "Things you don't want to know," he replied, glancing at the well with disdain. "You're stirring up old memories. This place is cursed." I hesitated, the word cursed hanging heavy in the air. "Cursed?" I echoed, feigning bravery. "Why wouldn't anyone talk about it? What happened here?" He met my gaze, the tension palpable. People have their reasons. Some buried their heads in the sand, while others know better than to probe. It keeps them safe. His warning clashed with my yearning for answers. "I need to know," I said firmly. "The Roosters, the boundary, what's the truth?" He sighed, the sound filled with weariness. "You think you want the truth? You think you're ready?" Before I could respond, a piercing crow echoed above us. The sound slashed through the air like a warning. The man turned abruptly, scanning the tree line. "It's them," he murmured, panic creeping into his voice. "Who? What do you mean?" My thoughts raced as I glanced around. The branches shifted ominously, like something was lurking just out of sight. "They come with fear," he replied, stepping back as if retreating from a threat. "They sense it. You shouldn't let them sense yours." I swallowed hard. Who are they? But he didn't answer. Instead, he glanced back at the well, fear etched on his face. "Listen, you should leave, now." "Not until I know what's really going on," I insisted, my determination surging. But before I could take a step closer, a rustle came from the woods. I turned my head sharply, heart racing again. A figure emerged from the underbrush, its movements unnaturally quick. "Run!" the man shouted, just as the figure lunged. I didn't think. I turned on my heel, sprinting towards the path I had come from. My pulse thundered in my ears, drowning out everything else. Behind me, I heard another crow of a rooster, louder and more urgent this time. In a flash, I darted down the path, branches clawing at my clothes. I could feel the presence behind me, chasing me, a cold wind that promised something terrible. I ran faster, desperate for escape, as the shadows closed in around me. Suddenly, I stumbled over a root and fell hard on the ground. Pain shot through my knee as I scrambled to my feet. I had to keep going. I got up quickly, glancing back over my shoulder. No one was there. just the eerie stillness of the woods. I was alone, but I could still feel those eyes on me. The man's warning echoed in my mind. They sense fear. What did that mean? The truth felt dangerously close, yet it was cloaked in darkness. As I reached the edge of the woods, gasping for air, I knew that whatever existed in the well would not remain buried for long. Something had awakened, and I needed to uncover what it was before it found me first. I stumbled into the clearing, my heart still racing. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the ground. I leaned against a tree, trying to catch my breath and steady my shaking hands. Thoughts swirled in my mind. What had I just encountered? I squeezed my eyes shut, hoping to erase the image of the man's intense gaze and the figure that had seemed to emerge from the darkness. The world around me felt too quiet, too still, yet I knew that silence could also be a warning. Then I remembered the well. Whatever lurked there was connected to everything that was happening in this town. It had to be. I had to go back. But a flicker of doubt crept in. What if the man was right? What if it truly was cursed? Suddenly, a sound broke through my thoughts. A low rustling, followed by an abrupt silence. I strained my ears, my heart resuming its frantic beat. Was someone out there? Just as I was about to step further into the clearing, the rustling grew louder. I backed away slowly, but it was too late. A figure stepped out of the underbrush. It was a girl around my age, her clothes tattered and her hair wild. Her wide eyes looked haunted, reflecting a fear I could feel radiating from her. "Please, you have to help me," she said, her voice trembling. "They're coming. They'll find you." "Who?" I stammered. "What do you mean?" "The things from the well. They don't let go. You've already seen them, haven't you?" I felt a chill run down my spine. She wasn't just scared, she was terrified. I thought about the figure I had seen just moments earlier. I don't know what I saw. It felt like... "It was them," she interrupted, grabbing my arm. "You can't stay here. You have to leave this place. You don't understand what's at stake." My stomach twisted. "What are you talking about?" "I've tried to escape, but they always come back. They feed on fear," she explained, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Once they know you're afraid, they'll haunt you. You have to break the connection." "Break the connection? How?" I asked, though part of me wanted to run again. "Leave the town," she urged. "Get away from the well. It's the source of the curse. If you stay, you'll end up like the rest of them, lost to the shadows." Her desperation was palpable, yet a small part of me resisted the urge to flee. There was something about her urgency that connected with my own desire for answers. "What happened to you?" She glanced back into the trees, her expression a mix of fear and sorrow. I thought I could understand it, find out why, but the truth is darker than you can imagine. Before I could ask her more, a loud crow echoed through the darkening woods. The girl's eyes widened. "They're here," she hissed. "You have to go, now!" Just then, the underbrush rustled again. My pulse quickened. I had to make a choice. Was I brave enough to confront the darkness, or would I retreat into safety? That's when I heard it, a soft whisper drifting through the trees. It called my name. In that moment, I felt the pull towards the well I had tried to escape. But I knew if I didn't break free, I might not come back. With a glance over my shoulder at the girl, I took off down the path, not glancing back. My feet pounded against the ground as I raced away from the clearing. The chill of twilight wrapped around me, making my skin feel prickly. The girl's words echoed in my mind, urging me towards safety, but I couldn't shake the feeling of dread building in my chest. What if she was right? What if those things were actually out there? I pushed through the underbrush, dodging branches that reached like skeletal fingers. My breath came in sharp gasps, and every rustle in the trees felt like a warning. I could still hear that soft whisper drifting through the air, luring me back, but I forced myself to keep moving. I reached the edge of the woods and stumbled into the dim light of the street. I was panting, my heart thudding loud in my ears. It was too quiet here, too still. The town felt different, like an invisible weight was pressing down on it, suffocating whatever warmth remained. I headed toward my house, but the thought of the well made me hesitate. I couldn't just ignore it. If I didn't find out more, the fear might take hold of me. My mind raced with questions. What was in that well? What had the girl meant by the rest of them? But even as I thought this, a shadow moved in the corner of my eye. I turned quickly, my heart pounding again. There, at the end of the street, stood a figure. I squinted, trying to see better in the dim light. It was the man I had seen in the woods. He stood still, watching me. The mask of his face gleamed in the fading light. My stomach dropped. I wanted to scream, but the words got stuck in my throat. He stepped forward, the streetlight illuminating his features. His eyes locked onto mine. They were piercing, filled with something dark that set my nerves on edge. "What do you want?" I called out, though my voice trembled. The shadows around him seemed to pulse, as if they were alive. "You've been warned," he said, his voice low and gravelly. "Get out while you still can." I wanted to run, to turn and flee, but a strange compulsion kept me rooted in place. "Why are you doing this?" I shouted back. "What's in the well?" "Curiosity can lead to your downfall," he replied, his voice a whisper now. "You think you can uncover the truth? The more you dig, the more it will consume you." With that, he turned abruptly and disappeared into the darkness. I felt the air grow colder. My breath came in quick gasps as I stood there, frozen, battling the urge to bolt home. Everything in me screamed to trust my instincts and leave this town behind. And then it hit me. The girl had mentioned a connection. What if the well was more than just a physical location? What if it was somehow tied to the curse hanging over the town, manipulating those who sought answers? Before I could think further, the crow's call once again pierced the night, echoing in my ears. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath me. A distant rumble grew louder, a feral sound that made my skin crawl. It came from the direction of the well. My heart raced. I had to decide now. I could run back to the safety of my house or head toward the well to confront whatever lay in wait. But with the shadows growing deeper and more alive around me, I felt a pull, one I knew I couldn't ignore. I took a breath, clenching my hands into fists. "I'm not afraid," I whispered to myself, ignoring the trepidation deep down, and began to move toward the source of the darkness. That's when I heard it, a hollow echo, as if something was awakening. A rush of cold air swept past, and the shadows began to shift again. I knew I was not alone. I had to know. The ground shook again, and my heart raced as I stepped closer to the well. A strange light flickered at the bottom, shimmering like a lost star, calling to me. A part of me screamed to turn back, to run home and forget everything. But the other part, a darker, more curious side, drew me forward. I peered into the hole, my breath catching. The walls were slick with moisture, and there was something down there, something more than just water. My pulse quickened as shadows danced along the walls, shifting as if they were alive. "Don't look too closely," a voice whispered, sending chills down my spine. I turned to find the girl from the woods standing just behind me, her eyes wide and unblinking. "You need to leave. It's not safe here." "Why?" I demanded, my voice higher than I intended. "What is in the well?" She stepped closer, urgency etched in her features. "It's not just a well. It's a door, and once it opens, there's no closing it. You have to trust me." The crow's call echoed again, piercing the stifling silence, sending shivers through the air. I felt like I was being pulled in two directions, one toward the danger of the well, the other toward the warning of the girl. "What happens if I don't trust you?" "Then you'll be trapped," she said, her voice breathy and desperate. "It will consume you, just like it has everyone else." I pressed my lips together, weighing my options. My instinct screamed to run, yet something deeper compelled me to stay. I couldn't walk away without knowing the truth. "What do you know about it?" I asked, desperate for answers. She glanced back at the well, her eyes darkening. "My brother went in once. He thought he could handle it. He never came back." Her voice broke on the last word, and I felt a pang of sympathy. I've been trying to warn others ever since, but they never listen. "What do you mean, everyone else?" I asked. "Who else?" "People like you," she said, looping her arms around herself as if trying to ward off the chill. "Those who hear the call. They think it's a story, but they'll realize too late." The ground shook beneath us again, and the echoing from the well grew louder, as if something was stirring inside. My pulse quickened, fear mixing with an urge to dive deeper into the mystery. If I went down there, what would I find? "A truth you might not be ready for," she said, her voice wavering. "You have to be careful. The well has a way of testing people. It can unleash what's hidden inside you." At that moment, something shifted in the air. The shadows thickened around the edge of the well, and a low growl rumbled from within. I stumbled back, instinctively grasping for the girl's arm. "Run!" she shouted, her eyes wild. "It's waking up!" Before I could process what was happening, something lunged from the depths of the well, a mass of shadow, twisting and writhing like a storm. Panic surged through me, and I knew I had to decide fast. I turned and dashed down the street, adrenaline surging. But even as I fled, I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever lived in that well was already reaching for me. Then I heard it, a haunting shriek that ripped through the night, echoing in my bones. I glanced back, and the girl was gone. I was alone. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs felt like jelly. The shadows from the well lingered in my mind, wrapping around me like a cold fog. I stumbled onto a side street, then slowed my pace, glancing behind me to see if anything followed. Nothing, just the familiar outlines of my quiet town. But the feeling of dread wouldn't leave me. My heart still raced, pounding a rhythm of fear as I ducked into a small alley. It was dark there, and the exit felt miles away. I leaned against a wall, trying to catch my breath. What was that? I muttered to myself. My thoughts flickered back to the girl. What had happened to her? Had she been taken by whatever emerged from the well? My gaze drifted upward. The moon shone bright above, casting a silver glow on everything. But something felt wrong. Just then I heard it, a fluttering sound, soft at first, almost like a whisper. I turned my head, squinting into the shadows. "Hello?" I called, my voice barely above a whisper. No answer. The flutter grew louder, almost frantic. I pushed off the wall, edging toward the sound. That's when I saw it, a crow, perched on a nearby fence. Its eyes sparkled in the moonlight, and it cawed again, a sound filled with urgency. I felt an odd connection to the bird, like it knew something I didn't. "Is there something I should do?" I asked, half expecting it to reply. It flapped its wings, then took off into the night. For a moment I hesitated, caught between following the creature and staying put. But I couldn't shake the thought of the girl or what had happened at the well. I had to know. Taking a deep breath, I followed the crow, letting instinct guide me. As I stepped outside the alley, a chill swept through the air, settling in my bones. I knew the well wasn't far from here. With every step, the memories of the girl's warning echoed. It's a door, and once it opens? My heart raced again, but now it was mixed with determination. I had to confront whatever was waiting for me. As I approached the clearing that led back to the well, shadows danced at the edge of my vision. Just as I stepped into the moonlight, I froze. The crow had landed on the edge of the well, looking back at me as if urging me to come closer. I glanced at the well, its surface still glimmering ominously. Then I noticed something else. The ground around the well was disturbed, like someone had been digging. My stomach twisted. I walked closer, curiosity clawing at me. I crouched down, brushing my fingers against the soil, and that's when I found it. A small, weathered object, partially buried among the dirt and stones. I dug deeper, pulling it free. It was a necklace, its charm a wooden carving of a crow. Suddenly, everything went silent. The weight of the night bore down on me as I realized what I held. This had belonged to the girl. Before I could process the implications, a sharp noise erupted from the well, echoing through the clearing. The door was stirring again. I jumped back, the necklace slipping from my grasp as the noise intensified. It sounded like metal grinding against stone, a low, foreboding rumble. My instincts screamed at me to run, yet a bizarre curiosity held me in place. I had to know what was happening. The crow cawed again, its voice now sharp and insistent. It flapped its wings nervously, as if trying to communicate something important. I glanced at it, then back at the well. "What do you want?" I whispered, half afraid the darkness might answer. From the depths of the well, a shadow shifted, swirling like smoke. My breath caught in my throat. Panic threatened to swallow me, but I couldn't turn away. I edged closer, the sound growing louder, frantic, as if something was trying to break free. Then, without warning, a figure emerged. It was indistinct at first, but slowly took form. I squinted, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. A girl. Yes, a girl. Her outline was hazy, her features blurred, but she looked familiar. I realized with a jolt that it was the girl from my dreams, the one who had warned me. "Help me," she cried, her voice echoing off the well's jagged walls. It was filled with desperation, panic cutting through the still night. "You have to stop it." Before I could respond, that terrible noise surged again, and the ground beneath me vibrated. The crow squawked, and I instinctively looked down, spotting the necklace I had dropped. I rushed to pick it up, whatever courage I had slipping away. The girl's image flickered, momentarily pushing through the haze. She reached out her hand. "Don't let it take me back." The fear in her eyes ignited a mix of dread and resolve within me. Without thinking, I took a step back from the well, my heart pounding. I had to make a choice. Should I help her? Should I run? The air grew thicker, charged with some unseen force. A low, hollow moan echoed from the well as the shadows twisted violently. "You can't just stand there," the girl urged, her eyes pleading. "You have to close the door." Just as I felt the weight of decision settle on my shoulders, the crow swooped down and landed on my shoulder. I gasped in surprise. It pecked at the necklace, urging me to focus. Maybe this was my answer. My hand trembled as I held the crow's necklace tightly. I glanced back at the girl. "What do I do?" I shouted over the chaos. "Find the key," she yelled back, her image wavering. "It's buried deeper. Don't let it open." The shadows churned around her, dark tendrils reaching for her as I gripped the necklace tighter. I took a step toward the well, heart racing. I could feel the urgency, the fear weaving into my veins. Then I noticed something glinting at the bottom of the well, a different necklace embedded in the rocky earth. That's when I realized I had to decide. Would I dig deeper, risking everything to save her? Or would I turn away and let whatever was in the well swallow her whole again? With a deep breath, I bent down to retrieve the key, feeling the weight of my choice bearing down on me. I knelt by the well, heart racing, my hands trembling as I reached into the darkness. The cool, damp stones grazed my fingers, and I felt something catch on the edge of my palm. Another necklace, just like the one the girl had lost. This one was different, though. It shimmered with an ethereal glow that filled me with a sense of urgency. I had to keep moving as I pulled it free from the earth, grasping it in my fist. "Close it," she urged, her voice laced with desperation and fear. I could see her fading, shadows still trying to claw at her form like a net, pulling her back into the abyss. "What will happen if I do?" I shouted, the weight of her eyes burning into my soul. "The door must be closed," she yelled, as the wind howled around us, threatening to sweep me off my feet. I glanced around, feeling the shadows shifting closer. They danced malevolently at the edge of the well, whispering secrets I couldn't understand. But the girl, her gaze was pleading, full of a hope I knew I had to cling to. I clenched the necklace tightly, feeling its energy pulsing within my palm. With a quick intake of breath, I leaned over the well, positioning the glowing necklace above the dark mouth of the abyss. A rush of wind surged around me, the shadows circling, trying to pull me back, trying to stop me. "Now!" she screamed. I dropped the necklace into the well, and it seemed to hang in the air for a moment, surrounded by the growing shadows. Then it plunged under the surface, the murky water igniting with a brilliant light. The sound of the crow's call echoed around me, and in that instant all the energy around us surged violently. I felt it tear at my very essence. "No!" the girl cried, and I could see the panic on her face. Shadows writhed as the glowing necklace acted like a beacon, illuminating the darkness and drawing it away from her. The shadows around us recoiled, swirling like smoke, no longer able to bind her. "Close it now," I urged myself, my heart pounding as I stumbled back from the edge, the ground vibrating beneath me. Then I remembered her words from earlier. Each pulse of that energy reverberated inside me, urging me to act before it was too late. With a newfound resolve, I reached down, grasping the edge of the well with trembling fingertips, feeling the warmth against the cold stone. I shut my eyes and imagined the darkness being banished, the unyielding grip of whatever was ensnaring her dissolving into light. I could hear the cries of the roosters echoing overhead, still warning of danger, but this time it felt less like a doom and more like a promise. The ground shook again, but I didn't hesitate. I pulled the lid of the well down, slamming it shut. The moment it clicked into place, everything went silent. It felt like the air had thickened, the shadows retreating into nothingness. The girl's form began to solidify again, and I dropped to my knees, panting, adrenaline coursing through my veins as the darkness cleared away, lifted by a dawning light. "Did it work?" I breathed, my heart racing with both fear and hope. The girl, now fully visible, lowered her hand and smiled, though her eyes shimmered with sadness. "You did it," she sighed, relief wrapping around her like a blanket. "But it comes with a price." "What do you mean?" I asked, confusion mixing with a growing dread. "The well was never just a door," she said, glancing at the closed surface, glimmer still sparkling at the edges. "Sealing it away means the darkness will hunger again." Before I could respond, the ground beneath us hummed again, subtly but unmistakably, as if the shadows still loitered below. Confusion filled my mind. Had I banned the threat, or merely delayed the inevitable? My heart sank. Questions I didn't have the answers to swirled around me. Would they return? Would the whispers still haunt me? I looked into her eyes, seeing the faint flicker of an answer swimming just out of reach. Whatever I had done, I couldn't truly know if it was over. But for now, the light of the moon bathed us both, bathing me in a sense of bitter triumph mixed with uncertainty. As I stood and turned, ready to leave the clearing, I felt a strange weight pressing down on me. I took one last look around, the shadows creeping back from the well, not in defeat, but with an eager anticipation, a reminder that the darkness hadn't vanished. "I have to go," I murmured. The girl nodded, her trust in me unwavering, but I could see uncertainty festering in her eyes. And remember, it's not just the roosters, something else lingers. I hesitated one last time, looking back at that cursed well, the memories of fear and shadows wrapping around my heart. Maybe the truth behind the town's history only deepened the mystery, alluding to something larger than I could grapple with. Turning away, I felt the weight of the necklace in my pocket, the charm still hot against my skin. I moved forward, yet a part of me couldn't help but glance back to that well and wonder, what would happen when midnight strikes again?